Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hi, you look fantastic. So good to see you. All right. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your practice. Thanks for your support. Those of you who can, patrons on Patreon and PayPal, you guys are the reason I can keep doing these. And adding to the bookstore and the resources and all the links in the description, right? And those of you who can't right now afford to do that, your liking and subscribing is just as important in that it helps us expand our reach and reach more people on YouTube and all the various links to YouTube. So thank you. All right, we're continuing with ninth chapter on wrong and right. And a person might say, as Shakyamuni continues here, there cannot be anything such as the 4 grave offenses, the 13th Samgavesesas, the 2 Aniyatans, the 30 Naisargika Prayasitas, 91 Payatikas, 4 ways of humility, various ways of learning, 7 ways of... This is starting to sound like the 12 days of Christmas. And also there can be no Stulatayas, no 5 deadly errors, and no Ichantikas. Should a bhikshu violate all such shilas and fall into hell, all non-Buddhist heretics would be born in the Pure Land. Why? Because they do not have any precepts to transgress against. This shows that Shakyamuni Buddha means to frighten people. That is, when he gives out these precepts, Shakyamuni Buddha has said that when the bhikshus desire to satisfy their carnal desires, they should take off their monkly garb and put on worldly dress, and so on. And you have to read in between the lines here, too, as I've done in other chapters and shown that one of the my insights into Shakyamuni's teachings are, Buddhism is about the mind, so he's always referencing the way the mind works, not actual places or things, right? He uses personages to create collections of tendencies and conditions. And another aspect of all the teachings is how one represents the teachings. And so that's in this paragraph we just read, where he talks about if they're going to satisfy their carnal desires, they shouldn't be wearing their monkly garb, their robes. In other words, don't be representing Buddhism or the teachings of Buddhism when you're indulging in your carnal, samsaric, saha desires. Because you're always a representative of Buddhist teachings when you're wearing we don't tend to wear, for instance, our beads unless we're practicing. But some people wear them during the day. Shouldn't be doing that. Because during the day, you're pursuing samsaric activities. Unless, of course, you're promulgating. If you're going door to door, you're going to a meeting, or you're going to meet friends to discuss Buddhism, okay, fine, that's different. Bring your joju, with you, your books, your accoutrement, yes? So it's a lot about comportment here. And it's so natural for him to relate that doesn't point it out as such, but you can see very clearly that's what he means. They should take that off and put on worldly dress and so on, and do so, right? A person might also think that carnal, lustful desire is no error. That's not what he's saying. That even in the days of Shakyamuni Buddha, this must be... Okay, I'll go on. There was a bhikshu who satisfied carnal lust and yet attained right emancipation. Or that there was one who, after death, got born in the Pure Land, which that's a Hindu thing, because that's not Buddhism, right? That all such things have a precedent, and that it is not just what I alone am doing. Oh, yes, it is. But he's talking about people who will say this because they twist the teachings of Shakyamuni to satiate or to justify their own ends and interpretations, because they want to be able to do that. So he's showing examples of wrong and right here. He's showing how easily somebody can be misinterpreting or misusing, intentionally or even non-intentionally, just to satisfy their own ego, which we're always wrestling with, right? And do great ill damage to the transmission of the proper understanding of the meaning of Shakyamuni's teachings. One may commit the 4 grave offenses, the 5 deadly errors, and all impure acts, and even then one can still attain true and right emancipation. Shakyamuni Buddha may say that if one commits duskkrata, acts or minor offenses punishable by confession, one falls into hell and will remain there for 8 million years, which is the number of years of the sun and moon of the Trimsha, the Pure Land. But this is what Shakyamuni Buddha says to frighten people. Well, if it frightens you, that's not the aim. It's to remind you, what could frighten you more than living a life of constant suffering? I mean, this is the measure of the 4 Noble Truths, isn't it? Shakyamuni Buddha doesn't idly scare you. He simply says that if you're not working on your enlightenment, then you're in the Avicii hell. You're in the samsaric realm. You're in the realm where everything is craving, desire, clinging, painful. Yeah, it's hell. Right? What's the first noble truth? Life is dukkha. So if you don't want that, then you must assiduously develop your enlightened mind. So for somebody to say, well, he points all that stuff out because he's trying to frighten you into staying, true to your path of enlightenment. But that's kind of a contortion, isn't it? He doesn't say it to frighten you. He says it so that you realize where you are and where you'll return, lest you constantly work on your 9th consciousness. It's not to frighten you. He's just telling you the facts. But it can be interpreted this way, yeah? So that's what he's giving an example of. They say that no difference exists between the grave and the light error, the parajika serious error, and the duskrita, the venial error. All these Vinaya teachers falsely say that all these rules were instituted by Shakyamuni Buddha. Know definitely that these were not instituted by Shakyamuni Buddha. All such sutras and Vinayas that say thus are from Mara. In other words, they're all distortions fed by the influence of the Saha world, the samsaric mind. interpretations satisfying those who are promulgating for their own purposes, yes? Or a person might say that if one transgresses against even the smaller or minutest of all precepts, a malevolent fruit will come forth, and that there will be no limit to the number of karmic consequences. Now that's said to frighten. Realizing this, one should guard oneself like the tortoise who hides his 6 limbs in his shell, right? If there is any person versed in the Vinaya who says, quote, one transgresses but no karmic consequences ensue, end quote, one should not approach such a person as already indicated by Shakyamuni Buddha. One thing overstepped. This is Mrishavada, telling lies. If one sees no future life, there is no error that will not be committed. For this reason, one should not come near to such a person. What is pure in this Buddhist teaching is thus, and could it be that one who has violated the Stulatyaya, the Samgavasesa, and the Parajika can pass as not having erred? Because of this, one should be on guard and protect such dharma. If not guarded against, where can there be any prohibition? I now say in the sutras, quote, for any commission of the 4 grave offenses or any small errors, one should take pain to remedy such. If one does not guard against transgressing the prohibitions, what possibility can there be of seeing the Buddha nature? In other words, always be aware, for yourself and of those in your surroundings, those who transgress a proper Buddhist behavior. Address it in some way, whether with the person who's offending, which would be the most efficacious, or correct it in your own behavior. It requires great humility. It's difficult. But this is what leads you straight to your 9th consciousness. If you don't, if you recognize it and you just let it go, you're kind of mounting snow up against the door of your Gohonzon mind, yes? You're making it more difficult. You should be able to go directly there, especially at the moment of. It's so easy then. It's just like putting off homework or not addressing anything right away and waiting. I'm just waiting for the right moment, or I'm going to put this all together and then I'm going to address it all at once, or all the myriad excuses we give ourselves. The longer we wait, the more difficult it becomes. Why? Because we're in the avicii hell. This is the language of Buddhist teaching, yeah? All beings possess the Buddha nature. All beings possess the Buddha nature. Only by observing the precepts can one see it. When one sees, awakens, or invokes the Buddha nature, one attains unsurpassed enlightenment right then. In the 9 types of sutras, there is no Vaipulya Sutra. In other words, the 9 types are all earlier teachings. That is why they do not speak about the Buddha nature. Although these sutras do not refer to it, there is assuredly the Vaipulya in them. One who speaks thus is my true disciple. So this is why you hear me often say, Shakyamuni taught the same thing from day one. His audience changed, and so he used different devices, different expedient means, skillful means, whatever adjectives you want to put to it. He used storytelling and examples like we're reading right now, analogies and so forth, to enable those who weren't yet capable of understanding fully or experiencing their ninth consciousness, how their mind worked, and conversely, how they could work with their minds, right? To put their mind, not their samsaric cravings and clingings, but their mind to work toward clarity, to work toward detachment from all the distractions. Leave samsara be and focus alternatively on the clarity of your ninth consciousness, Buddhahood. Bodhisattva Kashyapa then says to Shakyamuni Buddha, O world-honored one, we do not see in the 9 types of sutras any preferences or references to beings possessing the Buddha nature, which you say they have. No, he didn't. If we say that they have, might this not be that we are guilty of infringing the parajika? How did Kashyapa get lost in this? Shakyamuni said, O good man, they who say thus do not violate the parajika. For example, O good man, if any person says that in the great ocean there are only the 7 gems, not 8, that person has not erred. If a person says that there is no mention of Buddha nature in the 9 types of sutra, there cannot be any commission of error here. Why not? I say that in the Mahayana ocean of great wisdom, there is the inherently Buddha nature. As the 2 vehicles do not know or see this, there can be no talk of their having committed any error, even if they say that it does not exist. Such a thing is what Shakyamuni alone knows, and what Sravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas cannot know. So I have my 2 cents here in parentheses. This is due to the false nirvana teaching that is discussed in the Conjured City, the parable of the Lotus Sutra. Sravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas think that they can only attain Buddhahood once it is given to them by an actual person, quote-unquote, Buddha, in another lifetime. Please refer to my corrected and annotated translation of the Lotus Dharma Sutra for more on that, yeah. O good man, Shakyamuni continues, not having ever heard of the great depths of the undisclosed Dharma of the Tathagata field, how can a person be expected to know of the existence of the Buddha nature? What is the undisclosed storehouse? It is none other than the Vaipulya Sutras. O good man, there may be non-Buddhist heretics who talk about the eternal self or the not-is of the self. The case is not thus with Shakyamuni Buddha. He says that there is the self, or at other times that there is not. This is the middle path. Now, he doesn't go into great detail there, but he has talked about this before. And the way that I've interpreted it for our purposes is to understand that, and I've vehemently talked about this in a few videos I can remember. We get hung up on words, and we start, and I've been asked by some in our very Sangha, because in reading some of these authors' interpretations of things, the use of the word annihilate comes up. You've heard it. I've read it. But when we think of annihilation, we think atomic bomb. We think annihilation, no more, right? But the use of the word in the sutras, we could probably use a different word that wouldn't be so charged, yes? But the word I've read in older translation is revulsion, which I would still prefer a different word, like repudiation or something, because it's like a vomiting away from samsaric, clinging, craving desires. It's a letting go, but letting at the same time as you let go. What you're letting go is your mental attachment. This is where I'm always coming back to. Buddhism's about the mind. Your attachment to your vehicle, your videos, your laptop, your friends, your favorite food, whatever it is, many things, of course. It's the attachment that's the problem, not the thing. So Shakyamuni always makes room for the thing to be, all the way to the self, the samsaric saha self. But if you divorce the self, this thing, self, labeled self, this collection of karmic tendencies and conditions, it exists physically, but you detach it, decouple it from the identifications that you've anchored and chained and hooked up to that self, right? Are you your favorite food? Are you your vehicle? Are you your boyfriend, girlfriend? Are you your job? If you decouple yourself from that, your mind shifts to a very fresh and uncorrupted view of self, which, and the trick is here, that self truly isn't this physical being, but the being and the physical self support this insight, which is in the mind, the ninth consciousness. That self is a self disconnected from the craving and clinging, but completely coupled to the life energy. All things, all things in their occurrence moment to moment, all momentum of possibilities, all momentum of beings, which is the expression of tendencies and conditions from moment to moment, but never static, never there, never is. But it's not is not, it's the space between, because it's the momentum, the flow of causation expressing itself moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. That's where the oneness of Buddhism is. Does it make sense? It's like watching a wave on the ocean. You can slice that wave as many times as you want. But all those slices, they're an illusion that's taking you away from the much greater grandeur up in the air, 5,000 feet, where you see this ripple across a large body of water, and that momentum, that energy, that's the truth. All those slices of the wave, they're just partial expressions of that. Does it make sense now? All right. A person might say that Shakyamuni Buddha talks about the middle path. All beings possess Buddha nature. As illusion overspreads them, they do not know or see. Thus, an expedient is applied to cut the roots of illusion, to make this obvious. A person who speaks thus does not commit the four grave offenses. This we should know. Any person who does not speak thus infringes the parajika. Or a person might say, I already have attained unsurpassed enlightenment. Why? Because I have the Buddha nature. Well, having the Buddha nature doesn't mean you're experiencing it or expressing it, does it? Any person possessing the Buddha nature has assuredly attained unsurpassed enlightenment. No, that's not right. Having a nature doesn't mean that's what you are. Right? Consequently, I attain enlightenment. Then one should know such a person infringes the parajika. Why so? There surely is Buddha nature, but not yet having practiced the best expedient of the way, Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, the person has not yet seen or awakened or invoked it. That's why it's so important that when we first meet people, when the question of Buddhism comes up, that we introduce them to this chant, right? This invocation, if you don't like the word chant. There's an invocation. In the West, that might be a more powerful word to use. It's a Buddhist invocation, whereby you invoke your enlightened mind, your enlightened potential. Having not yet seen it, there can be no attaining of unsurpassed enlightenment. If you haven't experienced it, you're talking through your butt. O good man, on this account, the teaching of Shakyamuni Buddha is profound in its meaning and difficult to fathom. And as I say here, Nichiren quotes this statement often and from several places in this and the Lotus Sutras. Yeah? Right? How many ways have we heard that? This teaching is difficult to understand and profound in its meaning. Bodhisattva Kashyapa says to Shakyamuni Buddha, O world-honored one, a king asks, how does a bhikshu get drawn to super-mundane dharma? Supra-mundane dharma. Shakyamuni Buddha said to Kashyapa, a bhikshu may, for profit or good, flatter, state things wrongly, or cheat, and say things as such. How might all the world believe that I am truly a real bhikshu, so that I can hereby arrive at great profit and fame? Such a bhikshu, because of the darkness of his mind, always thinks and meditates, I have not yet, in truth, arrived at the four attainments of a Shravaka. How might I be able to make the world think that I have gained all of these? How might I be able to make upasakas and upasikas think of me as a sage who has fully perfected all the true virtues? Thus does he think. What is done is all for profit, not for the way. In his goings and comings, in his going out and coming in moving forwards and standing still, he looks quietude-ful. In his manner of dress and of holding his bowl, the monk-like comportment is not lost. Alone, he sits in a lonely place and looks like an enlightened one. So people think this is the foremost of bhikshus. Fully exerting himself, he practices the way of extinction. He thinks, as a result of this, I will assuredly gain disciples. People will also certainly offer me clothing, food, drink, bedding, and medicine. All females will respect and love me. Any person who acts in this manner acts against the Uttarimanusa Dharma, or the Anuttara Samyak Sambodhaya, right? Also, there is a bhikshu who sits in a lonely place desiring to build an unsurpassed, wonderful Dharma. Though no enlightened one, he intends to have others call him an enlightened one, a lovable bhikshu, a good bhikshu, a quiet bhikshu. He thus effectively makes innumerable people arrive at resolve. This we're all in the process of, yes? Hence, I let all the innumerable bhikshus befriend him like a relative. Through this, I can teach and make the precept-breaking bhikshus and upasakas and upasikas uphold the precepts. In consequence, wonderful Dharma will be established. The unsurpassed meaning of the great principle of the Tathagata field will shine forth, and the Vaipulya, the Mahayana teachings, will be revered, thus emancipating all innumerable beings so that they will come to know the light or heavy significations of the sutras and Vinayas which Shakyamuni Buddha has delivered. Right? So he's saying we're not perfect beings. We're working on becoming perfect beings. But if your attitude and intent, there's those two words again, is to be an exemplar, your attitude and intent is to lead others toward, you may have still some tinges of wanting a little recognition, right? Some acknowledgments, but all of it is done in the spirit of leading people to the wonderful Dharma. Well, that's okay. Because then Buddha, Tathagata field, the innate, inherent Buddha nature can still be enlivened because that's what the intent is. And the teaching and the learning, the resolve, will reach each individual on its own. You will not be an encumbrance to it because all your efforts don't end in you. They end in the Dharma. You see the difference? Also, a person might say, I now have the Buddha nature. Well, we all do. There is a sutra which is called the storehouse of the Tathagata field. In that sutra, I shall surely attain the Buddha's teaching and cut out innumerable billion bonds of illusion. I shall speak to innumerable upasakas. You all have the Buddha nature. You and I sit together on the path of the Bodhisattva Mahasattva and will attain unsurpassed enlightenment and do away with all the innumerable bonds of illusion. One like this does not violate the Dharma. He is a bodhisattva. So once again, he's repeating his blueprint of the Lotus Sutra for a Lotus Bodhisattva, the way of modern practice. One who commits duskta will fall into hell for a period of 8 million years of the days of the Trimsha, the Pure Land, and he will have to undergo punishments for the errors he has committed. How much worse will it be when he transgresses the Stulatyaya. Thus does a person say, should there be any bhikshu among those of the Mahayana gathered here who have violated the Stulatyaya, such as not to be befriended. Not because it's 8 million years and the Pure Land is in a different place, but because the level of their understanding is so poor that they will mislead us. So just don't pay attention to them. Or pay attention, but don't befriend them. Where are we time-wise? Okay, I'm going to close this up here pretty soon. What are the Stulatyaya of the Mahayana Sutras? For example, a rich man erects a Buddhist temple and adorns it with various garlands and offers this to Shakyamuni Buddha. There is a bhikshu who, on seeing the thread which passes through the garland, takes it without asking. This is Stulatyaya. Whether knowingly or not, he violates in this manner. If with a greedy, desire-filled mind, one causes damage to a Buddhist stupa, this is Stulatyaya. One should not come near, associate closely with a person who acts in this way, like they're owed something. Or a king or minister, on seeing that a stupa is old and damaged, and intending to have it repaired, makes offerings to the sharira, the relics, and finds it in it a rare gem, which he gives to a bhikshu. On gaining the gem, the bhikshu uses it as he wills. Such a bhikshu is one who is defiled and who will most probably, call forth quarrels. No good upasaka should approach such a bhikshu, make offerings or pay respect to him. Such a bhikshu is termed rootless. Such a bhikshu is also termed two-rooted, or bisexual, if you will. Perhaps more accurately, a hermaphrodite, or in today's terms, intersex, or one in whom the root is indefinable. Now, none of you who may be intersex, or any of these various terms, today this is a lightning rod of discussions. 3,000 years ago, one's sexual identity was mixed up with a tremendous amount of karma, attaching oneself to the samsara or saha world, yeah? And I'm not saying that those are still true today. But what I'm saying is, since this is such a strong example of cravings and clinging, it's being used as an example or a litmus test for the degree to which somebody is, because he's talking about greed and foolishness here, that we can fool ourselves. It can manifest in our physical form, yes? But it's still, Buddhism is about the mind. Never forget that. So it's not about your sexual organs. It's about how you think about your sexual organs, or his sexual organs, or her sexual organs, or their sexual organs, organs. By indefinably rooted, it is meant that the case of a person whose body becomes that of a female when the desire to be female arises, and becomes that of a male when the desire to be male arises. Any such bhikshu is malevolence rooted. He is neither male nor female, neither a bhikshu nor a layperson. One must not come near such a bhikshu, nor make offerings to him or pay him respect. And my 2 cents added in here is, this is not strictly a fear-based misogyny or prejudice as it may be today. In Buddhism, the distractions of sexual desires are very troubling and admonished to stay the mind clear for the attainment of Buddhahood. To have a physical form that belies the sexual distractions is truly considered then to be very heavy karma or karmic repercussion. You understand? Typo. Okay. Starting to move slowly here, so it must be time to call it for the day. One who abides in the Buddhist teachings and the law of a bhikshu should have a sympathizing mind. Protect and bring up, take care of beings. Even to an ant, one must give the mind of fearlessness. This is a Shramana's law. One segregates oneself from drinks and incense. This is the law of the Shramana. One must not tell lies, nor should one think of lying. This is the law of the Shramana. One does not cause a greedy mind, feeling of greed or desire, to raise its head. The same applies even in dreams. This is the law of the Shramana. And we'll end on that. It all makes sense, doesn't it? If you remove the hyperbole, the sometimes excessive drama, and just see what's the meaning. Why would he say this? What does he mean when he says this? Oh, the meaning is so much more of a calm insight than the samsaric language might lead us to believe, right? But we're samsaric beings, so sometimes we just don't pay attention unless we're slapped in the head with examples. And oftentimes the insight is just a natural, oh. So there you have it. We will continue in the next video. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Please savor your practice. Enjoy it. Take your time. Just be very committed to it, right? Let your presence at your altar be solemn and alive, right? I always think back to that section of the Lotus where all the assembly is raised into the air. That's what we do. Every time we go to our Butsudan, we chant to that mandala. That's the treasure tower. And we're all raised in the air, looking at Shakyamuni Buddha, looking at Tahoe Buddha, and Nichiren, upholding all of this glorious envisioning. And we go through that timeless capsule, that portal into our ninth consciousness immediately, and we reside there. And that is our mission as we invoke that very experience, Buddhahood. All right? Enjoy that. Work on it. And I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.